Meeting is called to order. We have 3 members online and 2 in person, so 5 in total. We have a quorum.
Capital Improvement Committee also called to order. We have 2 members present and 1 online.
The first item, could the Director of IT do their presentation, please?
Okay. Good evening, everybody. And just before I begin, I just want to inform you that I'm applying for a state community compact cabinet IT grant to actually pay for this project. So if we are awarded that grant, I will be withdrawing this request. Just so you know ahead of time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so just for a little background, 2 years ago, we were awarded a $72,000 grant for the purchase of an online permitting system. And the vision for this software was first to make municipal services easily accessible to residents via online requests, online payments, etc. And then second, to get as many departments connected so everyone is getting the same information. So instead of the assessors having their own system, their own information, and building having their own, and the system's not really talking to each other, it would allow us to have one central database where all the information on a parcel from assessments to building permits to dog licenses are all in one easily accessible location for all the departments to grab from. So we started implementing this system with the building and the Board of Health departments. And we rolled it out the first of this year. And when COVID hit, it was actually the perfect solution because it allowed contractors and residents to still request permits, request inspections, pay fees without having to step foot in town hall, which was actually good because we were mostly closed for the public for a long time or limited hours. So we were still able to service the residents in that way and bring some money in as well. So currently the building and Board of Health modules are up. Assessors, the dog licensing and planning modules are currently in the process of getting ready to go live. And now my request to you is for funding to add the next phase of the project, which would be to add the fire department module. And I also kind of snuck in the last sub module for the building and Board of Health department, which is the complaint processing module. But it's the fire module that's the larger investment. It's I believe $35,000 plus another $2,500 for additional equipment, which is for the fire department is requesting 5 tablets to go along with this. So that what the fire module does, it allows the personnel to provide a full inspection of a property. They'd use a tablet in the field to record all pertinent information to determine if a structure meets, certain guidelines as far as smoke detection, alarm system, egress, that sort of thing, to issue a permit or the proper certification. It'll also allow residents or business owners to request and schedule inspections, pay fees, and follow the progress of the request online. And it will also allow other departments to sign off on a permit or give some input about a certain permit or something that the fire department is looking for before a permit or a certification, whatever is required to be issued. It also allows residents to request burning permits online. They can request it online, they can pay for it, print it if necessary, which also cuts down the amount of foot traffic in and out of the fire station during the burning season. So again, I'm hoping to receive the grant money to pay for this next step, the next phase in this project. But if we don't succeed, I'm asking the board to consider my request for these funds.
If the grant is not received, will the purchase go forward from free cash? Okay. Any questions from the Finance Committee? Comments? Capital improvements?
No question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
A motion to recommend the an amount not to exceed $53,035 grant if grants not available from free cash for the expansion of the permitting software. All those in favor? I'm sorry, motion? So moved.
So move.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Uh, This item is recommended 5-0.
Thank you.
Library capital presentation, please.
We have to make a recommendation. For the capital.
Is Captain
Yeah.
going to do it at the same
Did you guys do that last night?
No,
We didn't.
we don't buy it, please, but
Okay.
make a motion to recommend the purchase of the software for the IT department. Out of 53,025.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
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 The library capital presentation.
Good evening, everybody, or afternoon, whatever it is. I'm Bernadette Rivard, the director of the library, and I'm here to present our request for funding for the library's HVAC system. The HVAC system we have is original to the 31-year-old building, and over the past few years, we have been experiencing issues with it. Over the summer, the air conditioning unit had repeated trouble, and its replacement before it fails has become a priority. The heating system also needs to be updated, but that does not appear to be an immediate priority, as immediate a priority as the air conditioning. By obtaining the funds at the November town meeting, we'll be able to schedule installation of the new system before next year's cooling season. At Roger Oakley's suggestion, we contacted a company called Northern Energy Services out of Northborough. They replaced numerous units at the school facilities. They presented us with a proposal to replace the air conditioning chiller only with a Carrier brand chiller that meets current code. Choosing this option would not require us to pay for design services. The estimates we received for the design have been at least $30,000, and proceed with the project on a timeline that works well with our priorities. Their proposal is for a cost of $99,498 with an estimated yearly annual energy savings of $2,538, and we will be requesting additional quotes on the project.
We will be requesting additional quotes.
Yes.
I have a question with regards to just doing the air conditioning. The stuff that they make today is both heating and cooling as the same unit. Would it be more financially feasible to do it all at once and get the combined unit, or are we going to have two individual units on a roof?
We had that conversation with Roger and the folks from Northern Energy. Northern Energy is a National Grid approved expediter, they're called. And they assign an expediter for different projects. The feeling was that the cooling, the chiller is what needs to be replaced at this time. The boiler is still working. They haven't had problems with the boiler. It is 30 years old, so ultimately it is going to have to be replaced. But from what we got back from Roger and from Northern Energy, it's not unusual to split them, Joe, and to do the chiller, and then, because we had the same concern.
They'll match up.
They'll match up. It's not an issue, according to what Roger, we relied heavily upon him, as well as the expediter from Northern Energy. So that was the information that we got. Bernadette, would you
Yes.
agree with that? Yeah.
Yes, they basically said they really are two separate systems. They use the same, whatever those things are in the ceiling you call
They
them.
use the same cord.
They use the same thing to push the heat or the air conditioning through the system, but they are two separate units.
All right, now, the game plan is to replace that what, next year? Or how far out are we going to
To
go?
be determined. I mean, we'll probably be here next year talking about it. If it's still working fine and we're not in a position to move forward with it, I don't think we would necessarily be presenting. And I know Bernadette would have it on her capital plan for next year at this time.
Worried about. By the time we get to do it, this new system we're going to get is going to be obsolete. It won't match up with the system we're putting in.
Well, what is the heat system?
What is the heating system?
That's natural gas.
Yeah, everything
So
is
it's
down.
gas,
Yeah,
it's a gas fired furnace.
gas pipe.
So it's not going to match up. They're going to continue to use the same.
Right.
But
The AC runs off
conditioning-
electricity and the heat runs off natural gas.
They were two independent. So,
As opposed to what you're talking about, is going into like a heat pump.
Yeah.
Where it serves as an air conditioner in the summertime and a heating system in the winter.
yeah, they are evidently eligible for rebate credits.
Okay. I just don't want to be here 3 years from now and I'm sorry, it's incompatible. So we got to do the whole thing.
I'm just surprised that did they give us an estimate to to replace the whole thing, all in one?
No, I don't think
They-
they gave us a formal estimate, but they were,
Right.
in order to do that, that what Bernadette was getting was design quotes for 30,000 and taking a look at, a different approach to the system. And so this was a more cost-effective alternative to
Well, so-
addressing the failing equipment as opposed to replacing other equipment that's still functioning.
Wow. Yeah, sometimes you bite your nose out, it's like your face, so you've got a heating system that you have a problem with. And they've talked about it before, so we know that in the not too distant future, you're gonna be dealing.
It's 30 years old.
Yeah, so, you kind of sit there, and I know what you're saying, except if $30,000 gives me the answer that says, instead of spending 99,000 and 75,000, I can spend 103,000 and get the whole thing taken care of.
Except that wasn't their estimate. Their estimate, I think, was, what was the number that Roger gave us, or that Northern Energy said that would be in the ballpark? Was it a boiler was in the $50,000 range?
Right. I think they said 30 to 50, depending on what it was.
Yeah, that's if you replace the boiler. I guess the question is a heat pump. All right.
We do this piecemeal stuff and we get lost in the shuffle here. And things are mismatched. If it's going to cost us another $50,000 to do it right, and get it done once and for all, I think we should look at that option.
Yeah, it's just, I wish we had this discussion when we had Roger here last night, who kind of was spearheading it, and we had both here.
Well, Roger was here last night,
I know, that's why he was here, that's why he joined us last night to address any of the questions that you might have. We didn't ask him next time.
I would rather do it right the first time. That's basically one of the responsibilities of the capital committees to make recommendations. And basically, that hasn't been done in the last few meetings. The selectmen make a decision before the finance committee even meets, and they don't even ask for a recommendation from the capital committee. So, it's not working the way the system was supposed to work.
We had the Board of Selectmen here last night, and you had Roger here last night. I wish
And
we could
nobody
have had
looked
that
over to
discussion.
us to ask, what was our recommendation on the police and fire stuff? Nobody in that group.
It was your meeting.
No, this was the selectmen, the workshop.
At 6 o'clock?
Yeah, we
No,
were
the
at
6
6 o'clock. They
o'clock
were at
meeting.
7.
Right, 6 o'clock.
I mean, we're sitting here, we go through the motions, we do everything, and it's like, these guys, they don't matter. We don't have to listen to them.
The company that's going to install the AC unit, would it be the same company potentially that would install the heating?
Could be. I mean, that would be, Northern Energy is somebody that's been the expert
So
on
the
different
heating
energy
unit
products.
is 30 years old. Could we get a quick quote to do both at once? It's like 140,000 for them to be there and do both of them at once. I would feel more comfortable spending 130, 140 to do both at once if they're both 30 years old. If the same company's going to install it.
Because you get the matter of setting up and mobilizing, and you're gonna need a crane for both units. So you have to bring a crane back for the second time to do it, and then you gotta go through the process of matching everything up. Quite frankly, I would rather spend the money now, even if we have to do a band anticipation note, and get it done and get it out of the way. We don't have to worry about it for 25, 30 years. That's my position.
Is it possible to get a quick estimate as to what both would cost to do at the same time, same company?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, what we would be doing is we'd be going out for engineering services first. So we go out, we hire an engineer, then the engineer is going to drop a spec, and then that'll be put out for bid. Now, obviously, the utility companies partner with these expediters to help avoid the cost of engineering. They'll do the engineering. They've done the engineering analysis for this. Obviously, we told them we want the chiller, not the entire package. If we go that route, then what we'll be doing is looking for money for an RFP process, and then
So the power company is the sponsor of the expediter. The power company is just doing the commissioning. They're not involved. Is that what I just heard?
no, National Grid. National Grid will assign an expediter to a project.
Right.
Okay,
That would
so
only be for the air conditioning because it's electric.
No, they yes.
yes, it's an energy efficiency project, so they would be involved in both, but once it goes out to bid, it could be anybody. It won't be the expedited project at that point in time. MGL Chapter 25A allows energy efficiency projects under $100,000 to be done by these expediters as opposed to going out. Okay. So that's the cost.
So that's why it's $99,900.
That's why it's under $100,000.
All right, that's why we're not doing both at the same time.
However,
All right.
yeah,
I agree with Joe, but I also have another question. Bernadette mentioned getting additional quotes.
Right. From what we know from this expediter, the quotes will probably come in over the 100,000 because they're not the expediter, and that would be my understanding. They'd have to do the design and the. Is that correct, Dennis?
yeah, we go. It's possible, but we have the ability to go out and get quotes, additional quotes for the chiller. We're not locked into Northern Energy. We could get another firm to provide. We will look to make sure that we're getting the best.
Well, not energy, he's the expert.
Plus, yeah, he's the expert. It doesn't mean that we are bound to go with that.
Well, if they come down and look at the situation and see what we've got, they probably have an idea of what it would cost us to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know.
They've got an idea. They told us what they think.
So I mean.
So we did have a discussion about, as far as getting quotes, is putting together a scope of the project based on the Northern Energy proposal and sending that out to other vendors for quotes. That was the idea, using the kind of the specs that we have from their quote.
Bernadette, I want to see you get your air conditioning. I also want to see you get the heating system fixed with all at once. Because I know people are doing that in the peace.
Yeah. And that will definitely require going out to bid because it will obviously be over the $100,000.
It's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll get a better price that way than just don't pull them straight off the business. At least that's been my experience over the years.
Right. So I don't know what to do. What do we do?
Well, actually, we've already voted. So.
On this?
But we can always amend that vote. You know, we got almost a little over a month before the town meeting.
And we're not going to have any different. We've got to go out with an RFP process, hire an engineer, and then do the design work, and then come back. And
I'd like to get an idea what I'm sure that I can put this together. No. You got to go, Joe. We got to go RFPs. No, I'm talking to get an estimate from the expediter.
Yeah, we got an estimate
For the whole thing.
Yeah. We told you they're saying a heating system would be in the $40,000 to $50,000 range, or $30,000 to $50,000 range, and the chiller is about $100,000.
All right, so you got to do the RFP anyway. So I'll do it for the whole thing.
So we don't have to do an RFP anyway if you just went with the chiller piece. But if you're making the recommendation to go with both, then we would have to go to an RFP.
I think in the long run it'll be cheaper. Maybe I'm wrong. But when you have to come mobilize a system, you got to bring a crane in. These guys have to come in and set up. They do everything, by the port. I'm sure it's probably going to be a union outfit. So it'll be an extra. I would say at least another $10,000 to $15,000 more to split. And then we've got a system that's 1 year old, and we'll have a system that's 5 years old down the road. So we're getting further and further apart. That's my view.
So are you revising your recommendation from last week?
We didn't vote on this.
We didn't vote on this.
It was like library didn't come,
Yeah,
I've heard this for the second time. Board of
Library
Selectmen.
presented it, you took it under advisement. Is that?
Presented to the
Selectmen.
So
We presented at the
Oh,
workshop.
that-
They did not present to us.
So just police and fire presented.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking library presented. Everybody was.
They presented last night. Why would we be here tonight?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I was wondering, to be honest with you.
one day they get to us. Well, I would like to withdraw my motion and get more information on moving the whole system at once. If we have to, we can do a ban on it. I mean, it's not that expensive in the big scheme of the town's total budget. And when it's done correctly, be done once, we can move on for the next 25 or 30 years on this.
Just, I will say, and if that's your recommendation, you know, that's fine. The selectmen have recommended a different route. As I said, I wish we had the discussion last night, but I understand what you're saying. You didn't hear it last night. You're hearing it tonight. Should have heard it last night. I mean, you were here, and you know, we should have done that. Roger's point was this happens all the time.
Yeah,
You don't have chillers and boilers in existing buildings going at the same time. One goes, you replace it, the other goes 5 years later, you replace it. That was his point to us, and that's why we said, okay, well, this is the route that will go.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a slightly different perspective. My question with this is that you're right. You have separate systems and you get into this thing and it's like anything else. You milk it for as long as it's economically feasible to do that. And that's kind of what you're talking about. I'm looking at it right now and I'm not thinking, oh, okay, I'll replace the whole thing right now. I'm questioning, my question is the whole thing really what I want to replace? Or do I go with a completely different system, a heat pump system that does both efforts with just one unit? In other words, instead of having an air conditioner here and a heating system here, do I combine those two into one? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that. It would have been good to, you know, because I know we've been talking about the heating system at the library as well as the air conditioner for a while. It would have been, the right thing would have been actually to spend the $30,000 and get a consultant to say, no, you got to replace both. Are you sure it's more efficient or whatever? Or to say, no, you know what, you ought to consider joining these two things. Not just using the ductwork, but making the whole thing. The problem that you're going to have right now is you can't do any of these things other than what they're planning to do by the next cooling season. We don't have enough time. So.
but we don't need the air conditioner for winter time. We need it.
I know.
So,
But the heating system.
yeah, we could do this in the spring and they could replace it.
The timeline they gave us is if we were to order this after November town meeting, in theory, it could be installed by the end of February. So I think they, you know, to build it, so it's I'd say a 3 or 4 month lead time.
Like I just said, you can't get, if you don't do what they're saying right now, you won't have the air conditioner fixed for the next cooling season, right?
And technically, it is working. The fixes we did over the summer that were over $10,000, it's working, but I don't know what its, you know, long-term life will be. Will they try to turn it on next spring and it doesn't go? You know, that's the risk we're taking.
Okay, I don't know what you're- I said my piece.
I have another question, and I guess it comes down to is the difference between the $30,000 and $50,000. Is that doing it now or waiting and doing it separate?
I think Mary could probably answer it better, but I think the $30,000 is and that's probably an estimate or something that somebody told somebody it would cost to hire an engineer to.
That's,
Oh, we actually brought a quote on it.
We got a quote, right, for engineering.
We started the RFP process. I see Roger has.
There's
signed.
Roger.
You could ask Roger some of the things that you had concerns about, Joe. Or Roland.
Yeah.
Hi, Roger.
Roger. Oh, you're muted, Roger. You gotta unmute. There you go.
That better?
That's better.
Most people don't want to talk to me.
Well, I'm not gonna say anything.
Roger, have you been listening to our conversation on the library's heating and air conditioning system?
No, I just got in, so I didn't hear a lot of it.
Okay, we're questioning, would it be cheaper to do it all now and have a compatible unit, or even look at the heat pump exchange system and put it, put it to bed for the next 25 or 30 years, or is it better to piecemeal it? Because I'm sure that there's mobilization costs when you're doing the project in separate pieces.
Well, I think if I read her spec correctly, the installation and everything is in the price that she was given. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're correct, but if they have to come back next year and do the heating system, there's a whole nother cost to get that system up on the roof and installed and matched up.
Nothing's on the roof. Nothing's on the roof. Our heating, our air
That's what I thought.
conditioning, yeah, our air conditioner is on a pad outside the back, and the boiler is they're not on the roof.
All right, so they're even together, they're not together at the library either then.
There's,
You
yeah,
one inside, one outside?
yeah, the air conditioner thing is outside and the boiler's inside, and they're both on the ground level.
Roger, if you had your druthers, what would you do? Would you do it all at once, or would you look into a heat pump system, or would you just do it piecemeal?
Well, Joe, I got to say this. I'm not the keeper of the funds. You know, I would probably say that if we could afford it, sure, you do it all at once, make one package. But on the other hand, she's without air conditioning for next year. So to me, you got to take the one thing that is eminent, and that is the air conditioning has to go forward.
I'm confused by that, Roger, because she just said that the $10,000 put into it this year made it work this year.
It is,
And the
it is
concern was
functioning now.
it possibly not working
Right.
then.
It is working now. It does get turned off for the season, and then they turn it back on, you know, in the following season. And
Now, how much have you spent in the last 5 years on it?
5 years, I did them. I know it was 10,000 this summer to get it back up. That we spent 10,000 this year to get it back up and running.
Right.
I'd want to say probably close to 25 over the 5 years, maybe, off the top of my head. And that I'd have to verify that number. That's just a guess.
Yeah, I understand that, but how much have you spent on the boiler?
Probably 12 to 14 less. Definitely less.
Definitely less.
Yeah, I don't. I do have those numbers, and I did them, but I don't have them in front of me, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay. So to answer your question, Joe, it appears to me that if we had the time and we have the dollars, sure, you do both of them at once. But from where she's sitting right now, I don't know if that's possible.
That's how we got to where we are.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
well, I mean, if we can get numbers together.
they are independent of one another, you know, as far as the system goes.
Well, the unit, the air conditioning unit will always be outside.
Yeah.
It's a question of whether they put the chill usually goes. But anyway, all right. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this before we wrap this up?
I kind of put my thoughts on this. You know, I think that horses run out of the barn and barns on fire. Yeah. Just keep going.
Yeah, no, we'll both, let the vote stand.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do the air conditioning this year and the heating whenever.
Is there, I guess I'm going back to this, is there concerns about whether there will be problems with the heat? I know I'm not asking you to have a crystal ball, but if it's also in the 30-year range, you're not going to be using your air conditioner, I would imagine, in February this year, would be my guess.
Right.
Has any inspection been done on the heating system that would make it look like we need to consider both at the same time?
I mean, this heating system hasn't been on since March or April, and then it was, I don't know. They each season they fire up the boiler, and then they fire up the air conditioning, and it is 30 years old. I don't know. I guess we could have an evaluation done if that's. And I mean, I know, so we had the same repair person for many, many years, Honeywell, and then that person retired, and we moved to another company that has done actually good work keeping the system up and running, but it's not been inexpensive.
If Joe's not going to move to have the heating system looked at, I am.
All right, I'll second your motion.
To what?
She wants to make a motion to have the system looked at, so we'll do it all at once.
What are we just looking for? Its expected life? What am I having it evaluated for?
So can I make a suggestion? And nobody's gonna like it, but this is what I think we should do. I mean, kind of going down the line where we're saying we have to replace the air conditioning system. So if we vote to recommend the air conditioning system, move forward with that, but at the same time, go out and get an assessment as what are the options if we replace a 30-year-old boiler or 30-year-old air conditioning system bolted up to a 30-year ventilation system? What are the options to replace all of that with one unit or 2 units, new technology, 1 unit, new technology? And if we come back with an idea that says, or a price that says we can do it for $140,000 by next June, we don't move forward with the $99,000 fix and we move forward with the $140,000 fix. That's what I think we should do. But take 2 parallel lines. We can't do one or the other, but do 2 parallel lines. But look into replacing everything all at once, but still moving ahead with the $99,000 fix, just in case that is the right answer.
And what we would look to do is have Roger take the lead on that with Northern Energy. And if it looks like that is the case, then what we would look to do is go up to bid on the thing.
Yeah, what if we find out it is only $140,000 or $150,000? We're gonna take 1 unit that's new or 2 units that are new and somebody's
So
put 30 ventilation system.
So that's what we actually originally asked Northern Energy to do, was to give us a quote on both. And they came back to us saying because they knew it would be over the $100,000 and would require going out to bid, they weren't willing to design a system that they weren't going to get a contract on. So that's how we ended up with this other air conditioning proposal only. So I don't think going back to them is going to solve that. I think we have to pay for design services.
So yeah, but that's their selfish answer.
Yeah, that's not the answer you want to hear from
That
this.
may not be the right path forward.
So
Yeah.
I just want to be clear then. So are we recommending, not recommending moving forward with the AC, but in fact replacing this with design, funding for design services?
No, I don't think we're at design services yet. What I was suggesting is going out and talking to people who can, we're not asking them to design it, we're just asking them to say, does it make more sense economically and mechanically to replace both systems with 1 or 2 new systems bolted up to what we have there? Tell us if that's the right approach, and then we go to design.
I don't know, I guess.
Who's gonna make that decision? Who's gonna make the decision that we ask them when they're not willing to design? Are we getting the cart before the horse here, where we should be asking if we want enough money to do an engineering proposal first?
I guess I'm not explaining what I mean. I'm trying to get an expert to tell us, are we looking at this the wrong way? Would an expert say, no, you guys should replace both at the same time? That's your best option, and it's a far lower cost. If they come back and say it's $300,000, then we know we're not going to go that way. If they come back and say it's $140,000 to replace both systems at the same time, then I think most people would agree we should do that at this point. I think. No.
I mean, I'm listening to, somebody that's been in the field, and essentially what they both said, Northern Energy as well as Roger. If your boiler goes tomorrow, you call T&J or you call Victory and you say, my boiler went, and they bring a new boiler down and they hook it up. It's not a big deal, unlike the chiller. I mean, is that essentially what they had said, Roger? Or?
Yeah, well, first of all, the boiler is, you can get the engineering from the people who are selling the boiler. Okay, so it's not really a cost because it's in the cost of the boiler. The boiler is probably not a very long lead time for that size building. I don't know, but I don't know. See, I don't know what are we asking Northern Energy to do? Are we saying replace what's there or design something that's more economical? I don't think we've designed anything yet.
I think our primary thing is to replace something that's technologically advanced and will be more energy efficient for us.
But what have we done? Haven't we said just replace what's there?
That's what we said,
That's
but
right.
we've also been told that, oh, we're just replacing this part, this other part's gonna have to be replaced. We just don't know if we're gonna do it this year, next year, or 5 years down the road. So, I mean, right now, we're replacing technology, the existing technology with the technology that will match up to that, rather than saying, well, listen, if we got to do fire and heat and air conditioning, maybe we should look at what's the most efficient plants that they have out there to do this stuff. And it would be more energy efficient and more green.
Or what we could do is back next week, get an estimate on what a full system will cost, what the design will cost, come back with a number, and that will be the number that we put before you. I mean, it's one or the other. I think at this point in time, because
But that's my point.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
So we can do that within a week. If it's my point is, if it's 140,000 to do everything at once with one company that's gonna both systems up.
it's not gonna be 140,000. It's gonna be considerably more for the whole thing, because the first thing we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to put specifications to get, or an RFQ together, request for qualifications, to get an engineering firm in here to design what that solution is. We'll have to get an estimate on, what that's gonna cost, otherwise we're gonna be potentially without air conditioning.
If they could give us a quick oversight.
I don't think, I don't know.
So they do major jobs. I mean, they should be able to tell us,
Give us something.
come down, look at it and say, okay, yes or no, here's how much we estimated it would cost. And go from there.
So Bernadette, the good news is that it's not like there isn't support for the
Right,
project.
yeah, no, it's kind of a good problem to have in a way.
It is a good problem, but yeah, we can,
$99,000 air conditioning unit is proposed. Is there gonna have to be design work done for that?
it's all inclusive.
It's
The
included.
$99,000 is.
So that includes design, but then I thought we just said a boiler replacement is exclusive, no design. So if we do both, why do we have to have a design?
Statutory limitations,
No, because I think what you're asking for is you're asking for somebody to come in, from what I've heard from Joe and Roland, is come in with the most energy efficient, cost effective proposal, not just go get a boiler and replace the boiler and get a chiller and replace the chiller.
And looking at combined units. So now you're marrying up the two projects together as opposed to keeping them separate. So the design. I'm not disputing that. But I don't know that a vendor is going to come out and within a week and at no cost to give us the level of detail that you're looking for.
I mean, we did ask them, but that was the initial ask for them, was to design, give us a quote on both systems. And they said they couldn't give us that level of detail when they knew it would be over $100,000 and it was not going, it would have to go out to bid. They weren't willing to do the design work when they weren't going to.
I'm not really asking for somebody to give us a quote or to give us design work. I'm looking for the expert to tell us what's the right thing to do in this situation. I mean, you guys, whoever that is an expert. What should we be doing? And if they say, well, you're right, you should be replacing it one piece at a time and wait till the other one fails. So they're saying, no, what you really should be doing is both at once and making some modifications to the ventilation system. That's what you should be doing, but that's not a quote or a design. We're just asking, what's the right approach for this solution? That's where
My sense is you're gonna be meeting in another week or two. Yeah, let's bring it back.
But I mean, there are experts out there that could, I think, could tell us what we should be doing.
Yeah.
That spend all their days and weeks doing that.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest turnoff is when the guys say, well, we can't tell you what to do with both systems. That's definitely wouldn't be able to do it. We wouldn't be able to go through a process and get fair share. You know what I mean? I mean, I want to know what's going to be best for us long term and see if we can implement it.
All right, we got to move on.
All right,
And
Bernard.
as an aside, I'm concerned about a vendor that says they don't want to do it because they may not get the work.
I don't think that's the intent. The intent is you're gonna go over $100,000, and to go out right now and ask somebody to come in and tell you to combine both of them, in my opinion, is crazy without an engineer designing it first. Because no matter what happens, if you do both of them, you're over $100,000. You might as well get it designed and do it right.
Answer from the guy in the
Okay.
field.
Okay.
Is the answer from the guy in the field. Do it right.
Well, the one thing that they did say to us is this is kind of a replacement system meeting current energy requirements. It's not going above and beyond energy efficiency standards. So it was a, that was one thing they did definitely said to us when they were proposing it. So if there is an above and beyond, that might cost more. I don't know.
Do we know what size air conditioner is out there now?
So it's replacing it with an identical, and let me see what it said. 50, it was 50 something, a 50 ton?
I think it was 50 tons.
Yeah, it was 50 ton. Which doesn't mean much to me, but that's, yeah. A 50 ton carrier model, and it has a model number, 50 ton chiller.
Bernadette, how big is that building?
17,000 square feet.
Roger, how big is the gymnasium?
17,000 square feet. You're talking two different buildings. One of them has a massive amount of ductwork, and the other has maybe 100 feet.
I was just thinking about the size, that's all.
Yeah, but the library, I'm sure, is not just one length of duct run out 30 feet with two chutes off of both sides. You know, Joe, you know as well as I do that when you have all the turns and twists in the ductwork, you have to have the power to push it.
Yeah, my concern with the cubic feet at the school, we'll discuss that when we get to the school portion. Is the 30-ton unit big enough to do what you're intending it to do?
That's a good question, and I can answer it without a problem.
Okay.
All right, we gotta move on. There's a lot of stuff. Dennis, are we?
We'll come back in a week or two. Bernadette and Roger will get together and see what we come back with.
All right,
No, it's on hold for more information.
thank you. Council on Aging, please.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bernadette.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Council on Aging is not going to have anything to present at this meeting. She did have a conflict tonight and wants to see if she could attend your next CIC meeting so she can give you an update on what's going on.
DPW Director, Justin Cunny.
Thank you.
Good. You want us?
Where do I go?
You want to go next or after? It's your call.
It's him now because Council on Aging isn't presenting anything tonight. So John's next.
On his last?
He's next.
Oh, all right.
No, we can take it. Nobody can see me?
No, no one can see it.
Pay no attention to that, man.
They can hear you though.
Okay, working, I presume you're working off of Mary Sheets. Got myself organized. Fail in technology last night with here in person. Okay, first item, which is I listed as 02 DPW, is a salt and plow truck replacement. It was actually approved last September by the Capital Improvements Committee. Didn't have the funding, so it's back on the plate today. With updated pricing from state bid of $221,000. Pretty straightforward. Replacement of the existing 2001.
Is that going to replace a truck or one's going to come out of service? Okay.
There you go.
Well, we have to adjust our recommendations for 216, actually 21.
we don't actually do it.
I understand, you're recommending it, okay, that's it.
You want me to keep going or?
Yes,
Number three, once you do one.
Okay, number 3 is another item that was approved last fall, I believe, and it's a hook truck, which can either have a dump body in or a hot box, or will come with the hot box. It really is a replacement to a small dump truck that will come out of service. It will also expand the service of having now 2 vehicles that are equipped with hot boxes.
So didn't we buy a hot box a few years ago or
Yeah,
no?
oh yeah, we still use it. But we especially in the spring and the pothole season, we could put 2 crews out easy.
So you need two.
Well,
That's what this is saying.
yeah, and the truck that we have, the older hot box, which isn't that old, is on a very old truck. So the reliability factor is better with new trucks.
So you'll have two in service.
We'll
Okay.
have the ability to put 2 in service, and if the other one's working and we need a small pickup, a small dump truck, we have this as a small dump truck. That's why it's a little more expensive, but it's a much more versatile.
Okay, number 4.
Number 4.
I have a question on that, on the hot box. I was looking at the specs, it's a 3,000 pound capacity.
Yeah,
What's that, about a yard and a quarter?
it's like, I think it's a 2-ton. Yes, it's 2 tons. So in a hot top, you don't need a top quantity of top weight. So.
Don, you said that in the spring pothole season, it's very useful. You guys go out and do any preparation like this time of year so the potholes don't show up? Because it seems like there's a lot of places that should be probably cut and patched now to make it for an easier winter and easier spring.
And there is, and our guys are out doing stuff every day. So, yeah, do we have a list of other things we could be doing? Yes, but there's also a list of other things we're not getting to. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're hoping with the ingestion of funds that we're going to get, and we'll have some road committee meetings this winter. If $350,000 as opposed to 40, it's something to talk about where we're going to hit. But even those areas, most of them are bigger than something our crews could do efficiently. We need to bring in somebody to do some isolated milling and paving, even full depth reclaiming. But yeah, between patching our own water repairs, patching our own catch basin, manhole settlement repairs, it's a good idea, but more staff. Yeah, we would do that year round. You don't want to see the foreman's map that shows open service calls because it covers the entire map. Do the best we can. Okay, item 4 is it's a sidewalk machine. I think you get it listed as trackless here. We're actually getting away from trackless because issues we've had. That's a Canadian piece of equipment. Nothing wrong with Canadian equipment, but we're having a hard time getting parts for it. Both the guys who operate it as well as the mechanics are suggesting we go to this multi-hog unit, which is the same cost for the base unit. And however, we have to buy all the attachments for this different unit. And this is the route we're going to go. These attachments, parts, and so forth are readily available. Most of the parts from Granger. So that's $190,000 was approved for $130,000 by the committee last September. The next item, I believe, is going to be funded by trash. Retained earnings is the replacement backhoe that was presented previously. And it's to replace the 710 we have now with a smaller machine, smaller, newer, obviously. But the 710 is actually almost bigger than what we need, causing us problems when we drive it down the street. We can't lock the backhoe section, so it makes it bounce quite a bit. And because if we do lock the section, regardless, it's not supposed to be too tall, but we've taken down telephone lines and other low wires. It's out of trash makes reasonable sense because especially now that we have a vac truck and we have a mini excavator, most of our water main break duty work is being done by those pieces of equipment. And most of the thing the backhoe is being used for is to pound down the metals dumpster at the recycling center.
So I have a question. The large backhoe is being traded in for only $9,000.
Yeah, that's.
Wouldn't it be just worthwhile to keep it as a backup? And why wouldn't we do that for only $9,000?
If
That's
we, it's not even $9,000, because that's two pieces of equipment. What I would like to entertain, we're about to start our first online auction of surplus. Most of the surplus we have is junk. This is not a bad piece of equipment. They're only giving us $7,000 for this. I mean, the problem then is we won't have, it's sort of manipulating the funds. 115, we need to jack it up to cover the 7,000 we're not going to get for that, and then see how we do in surplus. My sense is 7,000 is very low price, but like when you trade in a car in a dealership, you're not going to get it.
So my point is for 7,000, wouldn't we rather keep that piece of equipment to have? It's only 7,000.
Well, keeping that's right. Do we need to have, again, if I had, what's going to happen is going to be parked outside because we have no place else to put it.
Yeah, but
I hate doing that.
But is there a use for it?
Well,
Can it be used?
it would be backup.
Give you redundancy. That's what it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the manpower.
Yeah, but you know, I really have no problem. That's not a bad idea, but this appropriation then needs to be for 122. And that's not, I won't argue with it because worst case is you give me 122, we buy the new one, we find out we're never using the thing and we put it up at surplus and see if we can get for it another year.
I'd rather go with 122 and keep a piece of equipment like that for $7,000.
Fine with that. Yep. Okay, I guess 7, 8, and 9, and 10 didn't make it past selectmen, which is fine with me. The deferred actually the 7 was looking at if we were going to keep going with the trackless, we would need to have trackless attachments updated, a couple of pickup trucks, air compressor, which we're going to hold off on, and then tree stump removal and planting. This is the follow-up to the removal of trees that I think we'll be able to wrap up probably this winter. Over 400 trees that had to come down that died during the drought and gypsy moth. But it's not a short piece of change to remove the stumps and plant trees in place. But that's for the future. So that leaves us to item number 12, which there are 2 of, and it's good because it's sort of a combined item.
That was a mistake.
What's that?
That was a mistake.
Was a mistake. Okay. Well, then add a 0. The first is underground storage tank, which has to be pulled out by August of 2022 because it's been taken offline for that would be 5 years. We're asking at this point for $60,000 to get the preliminary analysis done, whether we're going to have hazardous material to deal with as well as anything else. The price of this probably could be, the total construction cost could be as low as $200,000 if we find there's nothing wrong with the tank and we're just pulling it out of the ground. The engineers will give us an estimate, of course, going to be conservative and say almost worst case scenario. So we need to do preliminary work and get bid documents put together in order to know where we are.
How many tanks are underground? Is it 1 or more?
1.
Just 1?
Yep.
How many
We have
gallons?
1 underground, we'll get rid of it and we won't.
How many gallons is the big tank?
It's 8,000 gallons. It's 8,000 gallons. It's put in 94. It was fiberglass double wall. The interstitial space never indicated a leak. I don't think we are having any major loss of material or product into the ground. So I don't believe that's going to be the problem. However, the tank was leaking in the top of the tank. We were getting water in the tank. It was contaminating the fuel. We get gas with water in it. So we took it offline. We paid somebody to inert it with the anticipation and hope that the inerting would be in a situation that when we go to do this, which will be 5 years later, and it's leaking in the top, it's going to be full of water. And if that water is contaminated, then that's going to be a cost to take care of. If it's not contaminated, if the inerting works, then it may be short money.
Is that the only tank underground?
The only
So
tank.
there's no underground tanks being used today?
No.
But there's one above ground.
There's
being
one
used.
above ground that's diesel, and that's the only one we got.
And you are using that now?
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. You can see something that goes wrong with it. That should.
Are there any other underground tanks on town property anywhere?
I don't think so. We're all gas. All of our buildings are gas fired now, so I don't think we have anything
Yeah, I think, didn't schools have a few like 15, 20 years ago, oil tanks, I think they're gone.
Took all the tanks out.
Yes.
So when you say they inverted the tank, did they do something? So I gather the way you describe it, the water's getting in through the filler.
That could be either the filler or the pump hatch or whatever, if we could see where it was, we could have fixed it. Yeah, it was getting in somewhere. Now, the inerting was what was recommended to me by,
Are the sensors still active in the interstitial space?
excuse me?
Are the sensors still active in the interstitial space? They're not.
No, none of the sensors, none of the gas boiler, the bird root system has been shut down. I do not anticipate ground.
What did they do? When they inert it, they just take the gasoline out, basically, they enter a compound.
Yeah,
Neutralize it.
Yeah, I don't think they do any significant cleaning of the tank. I don't think that there's going to be a problem, but
Well,
you know,
what you described shouldn't be.
Exactly.
There's water leaking into the primary tank, not the interstitial space.
I would be very surprised if there's a problem. This is what the engineers were looking for to get its bid documents together and do that preliminary stuff. So that's the list, I think, of general fund items, other than we go down to item number 14.
No, you missed the apron.
Number 12.
That's 212. Oh, I didn't do
Yeah,
all
the
the
second
fire
number
apron.
12, which I'm calling 16.
Yeah, fire apron, which is sort of an add-on to this because it'll be probably done by the same engineer. $9,500 to put the documents together to replace the apron in front of the fire station, which is never been in great shape. Trip hazard, we patched it a few times with hot top in the seams, but we've been talking about this for probably much longer than we've been talking about. Yeah, we have, because we've been talking about it since Dick and Mary was here and he used to scream about it. So that's starting, that again will be a bid document probably to take care of all of that concrete work. Our entire pad at the DPW definitely needs to be replaced, even if we didn't have a tank. The pad is severely cracked. More likely we're getting contamination from minor diesel spills that are going through the cracks and into the ground than anything else. Okay, so that's the second 12. And then down to 14 is our funding of what will be, if we get it, 75% BRIC, which is Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities grant, federal grant that we'll be applying for. The application will go in this December. We won't need to spend any money until we get approved, which they anticipate to be not before next November. But by approving this for borrowing at this point, we will be able to put on our application that we funded the project. So that's why this is out there. Our anticipated cost, it's a $3 million estimated project, so we will have to pay 25%, which comes out to $750,000, but that would be by borrowing. So this is really sort of a put some money up that we don't have to put up to make our application.
So we won't be tapping into that, Don, unless we're awarded the grant.
Correct. Yeah, and they won't award.
Yeah.
The information I got from the people actually at the state that MEMA that sort of manage it said they'll be very surprised if we get any kind of award information before November, the end of November next year. We just it's a year out.
So what's the plan? What are we doing?
We're gonna hopefully solve the flash flooding situation that Dennis can probably talk about more than I can in the Green Acres neighborhood, which is Newland Ave is the worst, I guess.
Newland, Lazat, the culvert on Lazat, if you know where that is, the neighborhood there. Whenever there's heavy rain, flash flood, and you know, there was a stream that went right through it. When they built the subdivision, they stuck a pipe in the ground and they buried it, the pipe, and it's corrugated metal that's falling apart. So you know, the head wall behind, Gene Bartlett's house, the head wall back there. So the flooding there wasn't as bad as it is now until they built Fox Run Road. Then it got worse. Then when they built Toll Brothers up behind it, it got that much worse. And we've actually had, cars get flooded out and people stranded on top of them waiting for help.
You know where that is?
Yeah. not. So we've had some significant flooding down there, and every time there's heavy rain, you get it down there. So we're either gonna fix it or we're gonna leave it the way it is. There's grand opportunities there, so we thought we'd, last time around, we through Mike Soder, Rep Soder, put us in contact with somebody from DEP, alerted us to these FEMA funds that they thought we'd be competitive for. So we talked to some people from FEMA, and
It's me, that's actually MEMA.
it was MEMA.
It's MEMA, but yeah,
Yeah.
they're the grant administrators.
Right.
It's a federal grant, but the state does.
Yeah, so it's a substantial grant, but there's a substantial design cost associated with it as well. Solve the problem for that neighborhood and for the Fox Run neighborhood. They've got some issues there as well.
So they're gonna,
They're gonna right size it, nothing else.
right, because I think principally that brook goes down underneath Pulaski Boulevard and ends up in Peters River.
Right.
And you've got low-lying areas down there too.
This is the only area that we've seen a problem with the flooding. So from beyond that, matter of fact, I think the culvert they put in at Pulaski Boulevard with the tip project there's never been issues with backup flow there. So it's sort of, this is the area that when they built the subdivision, I don't know when, double 50s or 60s, there was no real consideration for right sizing the drainage system to handle flow.
It was a lot of wetlands in there at the time.
I know.
Built. Yeah, I know you know, that's why I'm looking at you asking. Yeah, so it was a wet area, yeah.
And I this is really kind of the first I've heard of this. I'm looking at it saying, because I know the area. I know the area south of it too, or downstream. If you just go in there and put a culvert in and take the flow, all you're gonna do is take the problem from here and move it over here.
Well, what we're anticipating as well is to ask the engineers if they can find the land for it.
Yeah.
Do MS4 compliance too, get water quality. The engineer's estimate for a very, back of envelope to know where we stood was $2 million. So I'm asking for 3 because I've yet to see one of these stormwater grants that doesn't just go cost us more money than we'll set aside.
Who's the engineer?
Excuse me?
Who's the engineer for this?
We haven't got an official engineer yet. Ty and Bond helped us out with the price. Because of the federal grant nature of it, we get an RFQ out right now because of qualification.
So Barry, when we get to the underground storage tank recommendation, are we recommending 60,000 from borrowing or the 445,000 from borrowing tonight?
So the underground storage tank is 60,000 from borrowing. And that's to do the design. We won't know what the full
Right,
cost of the project is.
What are we voting on tonight? 60 or 445?
60.
Okay. Same thing for number 14. We're voting on 250 from borrowing.
Nope, 750. No, actually, in this case, you're voting on the $3 million project. It's a reimbursable grant, so we need to have the spending authority.
I don't see $3 million.
So you need to cross off the 750 and put in the 3 million.
What's that?
You have to cross off 750 and put in the 3 million. The 750 was only the town share, but once we found out that it was a reimbursable grant, we need to have the authorization of up to 3 million.
But we're not borrowing that money unless we receive the grant. Which is something that we're gonna have to explain to town. We're not gonna borrow that money, John. It's reimbursable, the grant is, and we're not.
I know, but in the past, we've had questions from the attorneys when they went to the bar about what is in the minutes of the finance committee for authorization. So I'm trying to get the exact language that we needed for the finance committee to make a recommendation.
Right.
So what do
3
we?
million.
It's 3 million.
3 million under borrowing.
So I cross out the 250, right? 3 million.
Goes up to
I'm not sure where you're right, crossing out 250. Over here, John,
I'm
to
on
the
line
right.
14.
Okay, John,
Yeah,
way over to the right, under the financing section.
Yeah, but I do it this way. I look from left to, I'm reading from left to right, and that's across to 750. So this is going to be 3 million here. And
The way your chart has it, Mary, so you've got 250 for this year, 500 for next year.
Exactly. But again, because I didn't know that the grant was reimbursable. Once
So
we found out it was
we didn't know
reimbursable.
until about 4 days ago.
So what's the finance committee's recommendation? 3 million?
So that 750 is gonna go to 3.
It's going to have to be explained that it's a
Oh, of course.
reimbursable grant. We're not going forward unless the grants award.
You're gonna care again.
Yeah.
All right, we can do it. Well, that's okay.
So for the finance committee, is there a motion to recommend not to exceed $221,000 from free cash for the dump truck item number 2, 110, not to exceed $110,800 from free cash for the small hook truck with hot box, and number 4, not to exceed $190,000 for the trackless.
Could we call that sidewalk tractor? Because trackless is a brand name that we're not going with. So call it sidewalk tractor would be preferred. Cross out the
Trackless is a brand name.
This is getting updated.
Sidewalk tractor, amount not to exceed $190,000 for free cash. And number 6, backhoe, an amount not to exceed $124,000 from trash retained earnings. Item number 12, underground storage tank, $445,000 from borrowing.
just 60.
It's 660.
60.
Item number 12, repeated. Item number 12, underground storage tank, $60,000 borrowing. Fire station apron, $9,500 free cash. Flood mitigation, item number 14, $3 million from borrowing. Are we doing item 15?
We have to.
Are we doing item 15?
No, Jenks River, we did not.
No.
do That, no. Present one.
Is there a motion? So second,
Second.
comments, questions, thoughts, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The items are recommended 5-0.
So I think we have to do the same thing with the exception of the dump truck.
I'm trucking the hot box. I think we're done, both on ICAC one. Or,
Yeah.
We did that. That we yelled at.
You did all 3.
we did all 3, and the sidewalk tractor is increased, so you want to do that over. Because it's increased in price, but the other.
So the truck, I don't think we have to actually.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't really go to-
Yeah.
So all we can do is make a recommendation to those with you.
For item 6. 12. 14.
There's 2 number 12.
There's 2 number 12.
We doing 212?
Yeah, both the underground storage and
Well-
the apron.
But we don't do 9,500 because it's under 50,000.
Make a motion to recommend number 6, 12, A for the fuel tanks, and 14.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You follow that, Tina?
Okay, moving over to water. So on the water list, 2 at the bottom of the same page, Scott Hill Boulevard, water mains, this is actually road work to complete the road repair after the water main construction project, which is in our procedure, and I try to appropriate enough funds in the water main project, but this one didn't come in that way. In addition, looking at the road, it's going to, what we're planning on doing is reclaim regrade and reconstruct the section from Andrew Street down because a simple overlay, first of all, the road's not in great shape, but a simple overlay would affect all the driveways. And then from that point up, which is almost halfway, we'll do a level and overlay. But we're short on the remaining funds in the appropriation and requesting $125,000 in order to get that road repaired into top shape. Effectively using some of the water funds where we dig up the street for a water main to fix our road.
All right, so that's super nuts, right? That covers everything. The road is complete. We're not going to replace services or anything like
The
that.
services are all done. There's no sewer in the street. There's no gas in the street.
Not the drainage.
There is no drainage. No, there's drainage in the south end. Actually, a lot of it isn't. There's drainage at the south end of the street. South end, west. Okay, south end. West end of the street. There is drainage in the street at the west end. And actually, there's a lot of undeveloped and I think wetlands that there's sheet flow, so it's not a huge drainage issue. The next item is the engineering part of, or the plan preparation, bid document preparation for South Main Street standpipe renovation. Was previously done in '98, and it's time to do it again. We inspect it every year. The engineers have been indicating that we should get it on a list for about 2 years. The longer we wait, the more expensive it's going to get, based on the pitting that may occur in the inside of the tank. This is an inside and outside, stripped down to bare metal and painting of the tank, as well as some additional safety improvements on this tank because it was built in 1940, and the access on the roof and the roof hardware needs to be updated.
Did they just paint the tank or are they just doing the aerial stuff?
Excuse me?
So you're talking about the South Main Street
Yeah.
tank, right? We didn't do any painting on it this year?
No, anything you might have seen somebody doing was touch up by the antenna company. Because an antenna got hung on it this year.
Oh, okay.
Personally.
Because I went by one time and I said,
Yeah.
and then I saw this. Wait a minute.
No, they were required to paint anything that they did, and they had to do inspection with a ROV, internal unit. So that's gone well, and we're getting $42,000 a year, I think. Although they say someday soon, the cellular tower stuff, money's going to dry out, but we haven't seen any sign of it yet. So we want to keep it that way. So, question? Next one is Arthur Street. This is the same thing. It's to complete the road. It's a much smaller street, and we've got actually a good chunk of change left there, but this is the estimate to get Arthur Street. That's going to be completely reclaimed and reconstructed.
No worries.
Okay.
Little feedback.
The next item is Oakwoods Apartments Loop. There is a water main that ductile iron water main that they installed when they built their projects. It is in there, it goes all the way to a hydrant in their back parking lot. Cliff Road and the access road to well number 12 with a water pipe in it puts us in a position of having a long dead end on their Oakwoods property and a long dead end on Cliff Road. It's no longer a feeder. This is with less than 150 feet of pipe, be able to make the connection, get rid of 2 dead ends. And Oakwoods is one of our routine sampling sites, and we literally have to flush it about every week in order to keep chlorine residuals up. So this will resolve a water quality issue that we've been looking to take care of.
Is this an in-house project? Or
it's probably one of those things that if we have, and we've got a bunch of water work stuff, so we'll probably throw it on them because they'll knock it off in a day and a half, and we'll be out there, for 2 weeks, just because we start doing something and then the next day we'll go somewhere else.
Oh, you have 2 backhoes.
Yeah, but you got to have people that run. If the crew heads out and goes to fix a water main in the middle of it, that's one of the reasons with our level of staffing to take on any kind of even sort of minor project like this. We look like idiots because we show up one day and we do a nice job for a day, and then where do you guys go? We went to do a water main break on this street, or we went to some other priority. Estimated cost $30,000. I have sent a couple of emails and just spoke to the representative today. Hadn't heard anything back and called, and they said no, because that's, of course, it's a sort of a corporate thing. So I'm hoping, it didn't from our conversation indicate that I'm out of whack and thinking that this is going to be an agreement that we have in hand long before town meeting, but we haven't got it yet. The next one is Poria Street water main replacement. There's a 2-inch water pipe, iron pipe, which has chronic leaks and very difficult to repair because it's hard to find a good piece of pipe to put the repair pipe on. It's actually very deep as well, so we're looking to replace that with an 8-inch water pipe, a hydrant at the end.
How many people is that, sir?
Excuse me?
How many people is this?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 houses.
That includes the services and everything.
This is, and the same thing, repay. Ideally, we do a level and overlay on the street, if that's sufficient to do it. So,
There's no drainage in that street, is
there might be drainage on the street. I don't get the layer open. There might be drainage. That's not that old a street. It's not someplace I'm getting calls for chronic flooding, but people complaining about the water. So the next one is Link Street water main. This is to install a new water main from Payne Street down Atlanta Ave and then Link Street. This comes to light as we have determined by, we didn't really want to determine it, but the 2 houses that are on Link Street are fed off of Payne Street through private property. One of them almost directly to a septic system with pipes that we had a very hard time fixing last year. They're copper tubing, very difficult. They're very tough shape. So we'll improve fire protection by putting a fire hydrant at the end of Link Street, and there's a 500 and some odd feet of water pipe to resolve the service to these 2 properties. And actually one other that goes, what we're believing now is one house on Key Street also gets serviced through a property on Payne Street, through a property on Link Street, and now to theirs with no easement or right away and old pipes.
So these all going out as one bid, or are they going to use?
Yeah, we'll bulk everything, trying to bulk everything. We actually, because of the situation that we're in, staffing wise, mostly related to COVID, we'll have Harper Boulevard, will be part of that project as well. The funds were approved last year. We just haven't get out of it. And then I believe the last one on the water side is a preliminary, well, number 10, preliminary analysis. I don't know if you got the sketch, but we own 400-foot radius, which is a required minimum. And that actually comes right up against Army Corps land as well as Concom land. So we've got a little bit of wiggle room because it's protected land, which is what the key element is. It's been there, that radius has been there since before I started. We have no records of any indication that anything was done. I'm assuming something was, otherwise why would they put a 400-foot radius there? But this is the first step, and it's $100,000 if we get to start the actual permitting. But the first thing we'll be doing is heading out there with what they call a bombardier drill rig to see if we get some good soil, see if we can do some kind of pumping test and get enough water to make it viable as a public water supply, as well as do water analysis. Make sure it's not something that's laden with PFAS or something that's going to cause us more problems with work.
What's that located on High Street?
It's between High Street and the railroad tracks. Okay. So it's sort of into the woods towards the river from the High Street fields.
Okay.
Did you get the plan? Did you get?
So it's on this side of that street?
It's on, yes.
It's on the east side of the west.
Yeah, it's on the, actually it's the Charles River. It's on the north side of the Charles River.
North side of the Charles, okay.
If you didn't get this,
Right, north side of the Charles River, but
yeah.
which is also east of the Charles
Yeah.
River.
The Charles River in the area goes along the railroad tracks and then.
Closer to Maple Street than it is North Main.
Yes. But not by a lot.
Any comments from finance committee members for items 1 through 7 for water? The motion to recommend items 1 through 7, total cost of $537,000. Funded $500,000 from water retained earnings and $37,000 from other
I'd like to
operating
clarify that
budget.
with update to the spreadsheet, and it should be fully funded 537 from water retainer.
All right, so it's all coming from, it's all coming from the game.
All funded from water retained earnings in the motion. So second,
So moved.
favor? Aye.
Second.
Aye. Opposed? Recommended 5-0. 537,000 from water retained earnings.
Capital, we need a motion for items 1,
5,
5,
6,
6,
and
and
7.
7.
So moved.
Have a second?
Don, the one
Second.
know if you finished voting.
Yep, also.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay,
All those in favor say aye.
I was gonna say. Something like that. Okay, North Main Street generator, $120,000 was appropriated last November, and we've spent the $18,000 or $18,500 to have technical specifications, effectively documents ready to go out to bid. The engineer's estimate for the construction is in the sort of range of 200,000, which would put us well short. This will not bring us to the engineer's estimate, but it will put us in a lot better position as far as thinking, hoping we get good pricing.
200,000 for generator?
That's, yeah. That's,
How many
What
watts?
the hell are you putting in?
What happens when you get the engineers involved?
we put one in at, like, now granted, this one is in a little different location. This is inside the building. They got to take it out of the building, put the new one in the building because it's more of a residential area. But we did a similar project, exact same station. We put a brand new generator in for $100,000, which is where I came up with 120 when I asked for the money, when it was a contract in place in 2016, I believe. So I'm very optimistic that we'll have enough money appropriated with what we're putting in now, which is, I believe, 50 from retained earnings and 36,500 roughly from closing out the Renton Road grinder pump funding, grinder pump funding. Yeah,
We would use the Rentham Road, so the funding would be the Rentham Road article. It would repurpose it.
okay, but yeah, we'll repurpose that, but we also going to use the funding from whatever retained earnings.
Yep. So the funding source in the recommendation report will be retained earnings and the Rentham Road article. Yep.
So the generator is running on gas. $12,000 on the gas line that's already there.
Gonna go out to bid.
How am I going to argue with an engineer? Okay, he tells me what it is. I come back to you. I ask for money. If I have $50,000 left after we do this job, I'll be back next time looking for Potter Drive, much smaller generator replacement because that needs to be replaced too. They're all around 30 years old now, and they're not.
So 175 kilowatt.
Yeah.
Around a pump station.
It's got big pumps. That's what's in there now.
Okay, 175's in there now. All right.
It's got 150 horsepower.
So is it gonna be a cat or Kohler or?
It's going to be whatever we suspect when the bid comes in.
It's gonna be something we get parts for, right?
Well, that's-
It's not gonna be a Chinese generator.
Well, that would be hopefully what we're paying the engineers to tell us. Yeah.
No, I'm serious, because some of that stuff that's coming from the Far East doesn't last long. You can't get parts.
So one of the reasons for this cost is because it's going inside the building.
The reason for the cost is because the engineers say it's going to cost that much more. That's when we had the contractor who put the one outside the building on Crystal Way or Mechanic Street. I asked him, I said, is it a big cost? He said, no, we do that all the time. It's not, maybe $10,000 increase in cost in the installation of the generator. So it's hard for me to go forward with a bid because that's time consuming and cost some money when I've got $80,000, or I've got a little over 100,000, the engineer's gonna tell me it's somewhere gonna cost us 170 to 200,000. So that's why I'm back asking for additional money. I'm trusting the engineer.
Who's doing this for you?
Is that Ken Kleinfeld is the engineer?
Do we have one engineering company that does all our engineering? Or do
We have
five?
Kleinfelder does sewer for us. Time Bond is our stormwater. Beta has been road work, but now road work is pretty much by CHA. Beta still does waterworks design plans for us. Stand pipes are Haley and Ward, which is now something else. I forget the name, but Haley and Ward has been taken over. So we have a specialized guys.
Okay.
Not one that does everything.
Do we ever go out for RFPs to make sure that we're not getting?
We have done that. We did it for example, for Beta, when we had Beta for a long time doing road work, and actually I think they came, pretty close there when we chose. I think they were on that committee when we chose CHA. So, and for big stuff, we do. For big stuff, you have to, especially if there's federal funding involved.
Well, I mean, you seem concerned that the amount of the bid, we're concerned with the amount of the, what they think we're gonna need. All right, so, I mean, it is what it is. There's no way around it.
I hope they're wrong, and I hope it comes in at 120, and we've got a lot of money to come, because I needed to do another generator. We're not.
And I want to make sure that we get the quality generator. Somebody told, I see some of my son works on his stuff. He's in the stuff that's coming out of some of these countries. Shakes his head.
Just let you know, we're running out of time because school committee still needs to come in and they have a meeting at 6:45.
Oh, okay, it's 6:45.
For the finance committee, is there a motion to recommend the North Main Street generator, $86,526. $150,000 from sewer retained earnings, $36,526 for Renton Road article. For motion? Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Recommended 5-0.
Okay, capital improvement.
Yeah, make a motion to appropriate the sum of,
Forget the money.
forget the money. You recommend to upgrade the generator.
Have a second? Kelly, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Dennis is doing first.
Okay.
We're gonna see that. Mhm.
Tina, what do we have left?
School.
All right. Thank you, Don.
Hey, no.
Roger, you in there?
I'm here.
I put a plane for you downstairs near the copy machine. I don't know what it is, but they had your name on it.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Mike, you start at 7:45? I mean, 6:45? 6:45.
They have paperwork for it.
Quiet.
There are 5 items listed here for school. Did some of them not make it through last time?
There were recommendations that were put forward on 3. Gymnasium floor, the air conditioning, and the auditorium lighting is something that everybody knows needs to get done, and we want to revisit that in the spring after we have an opportunity to see if we can get it paid for with some credits that we have and some energy incentive money. So we're going to try and get that done that way.
So crossing out item 3.
Well, we're not cross. Yeah, it's not something that the selectmen were recommending go forward to this town meeting. They did recommend the gymnasium floor and the air conditioning as well as the entrapment doors.
And how about items 4 and 5?
We asked that those be put off until next year. So
Not full meeting.
those weren't recommended. By
So
the
just
board.
1 and 2 tonight?
Right.
Okay.
I do. Okay, the first major one is the gym floor and the air conditioning for the gym to go with it. We've really been kicking that can down the road for a number of years. We've had a series of failures in the floor that have had to require repairs. It's a floating floor, which no longer really floats because of the repairs that we've had to put in. We've been advised that there was a moisture problem that was part of what was causing it. That caused myself and the rest of the school committee to recommend to Roger, to hire a consultant to review the gym surface and what's underneath the gym floor to really determine what the cause of the moisture problem is, to make sure that any remedy that we pursue will be once and for all. Obviously we're extremely frustrated that a hardwood floor in such a large building, a large project needs to be replaced, but unfortunately it does. And so we want to make sure that if we go forward doing this again, that we do it one more time, once and for all, and make sure we get our ducks in a row. So we did hire a consultant. They reviewed it. The recommendation was that humidity was a significant issue, hence the air conditioning for the space. They did not recommend, even after doing coring samples of the floor underneath it to see what the slab looked like underneath, they did not recommend any additional measures other than when we build this floor to make sure there's a solid vapor barrier put in, and then the floor built oxide floor, hardwood floor, and perhaps not utilizing a floating floor either, just a traditional hardwood floor like we have in some of the other buildings.
I have a question for Roger. Roger, is this floor, you're going to do a subfloor underneath it, is that correct?
The first thing that's going to happen is we're going to BB blast the original concrete and put a water barrier on it. And then we will proceed to do the wood flooring.
All right, is there ventilation between the subfloor and the concrete? Or is that just going to be whatever you put on the concrete?
Well, you've asked an interesting question because back in '96 through the Energy Code, all habitable slabs were to have 2 inches of insulation placed under them before you poured the concrete. This one has no insulation under it.
Yeah.
So therefore somebody wasn't paying attention.
Is there a warranty on this? If we spend $540,000 and it doesn't work, they're going to give us our money back?
Well, Joe, I hope that if I'm in charge of it, that never happens because I'm looking at a 40 to 60 year lifespan out of this floor.
Okay.
And I also pay taxes here in town and I don't want to do it again.
Okay. Because really the best way to do it was the way you suggested. And it would be very expensive to take all that concrete out and build it.
Yes, it would be at least another $350,000, $400,000.
Yeah. Okay. And if this doesn't work, it'll be $1 million for the next time around.
We hope that that's not the case. We tried to put ourselves in a position using appropriate consultants, and their recommendation was that we should be successful moving forward this and adding the air conditioning. I was kind of hesitant with the air conditioning. It seemed like, why do we need that in the gym? But the reports that we received seemed to think that that was going to be a significant component to controlling the environment around the floor.
My next question about the air conditioning is a 30-ton big enough, Roger, for the cubic footage of space that you have to ventilate?
Unlike the library, I had an engineer from Northern Energy go through this back in 2017 before we even started to get involved with this. And what was discovered was that the units that are there, 3 of them, it's been over-designed because 2 of them would have done the job. So what this proposes is to take the small one out and put a gas and heat unit in its place, which the structural engineer has already told us that it's capable, the roof is capable of standing that. And there's some ductwork that has to be done. I'd like to get that done before we rip out the old floor that's there now. So that would not have to be done while the new floor is being installed.
I go back to the space between the concrete and the final floor. I know now in some construction that happens on floors that they put a barrier in between so it can breathe. Is that what we're doing here?
No,
No, okay.
no, because you have to stop the moisture from getting through the concrete into that wood. And the only way you're going to do that is to put a water barrier in there, a barrier that will not let the water or the humidity come through it. That's exactly what we did at the middle school in the, well, the romper room, whatever you call it.
The all-purpose room.
Right, the all-purpose room. That we had to BB blast. We actually had concrete in there that we took out in order to get the same height by putting in the water barrier. That barrier has done absolutely fantastic. That floor is as dry as can be right now. When it was absolutely, you could go in there and put your hand on the floor and feel the water underneath the PVC.
How old is it? Was when you put the new floor in there? Roger, that you did that about 5 years ago?
2014.
So that was my question. Somebody said 1996. What happened then? Is that when the gym was constructed?
When the school was built.
The school was built like 2002.
It was built in 2001. Right. So this is not the original floor?
It is the original floor.
Did Roger just say the floor got replaced in 2000?
We were talking about in the middle school, the memorial school, there was some work done on a small gym.
That's a different.
Exactly. That's not because we were just talking about the example before.
All right. So this was built in 2001 and it's the original.
It's the original floor.
So I think Roger answered my question. When somebody says humidity, usually you think it's the humidity in the air. But Roger, you just said this humidity is coming up from the ground, right?
Yes, because we took humidity samples and at the top of the concrete, we had 99, relative humidity was 99, 98, 97.
So I think that's an important point for people to understand, because when we were talking about humidity last night, I was here and I was confused because this humidity, in my house too, and I have hardwood floors and they don't work, but this is not humidity in the air. It's coming up from the ground. It's destroying it.
I think I'll defer to Mr. Oakley, but I believe that it's both. I mean, that's the information that we received because the gym is, uncooled at all in the summer, right? So it gets very. Right, I'll defer to Mr. Oakley. Mr. Oakley wants to.
That's the point, Mr. Reed, is that the temperature in that gym, we've recorded it at 110 and 112 degrees, and that alone will commit to the air to be humid.
But I have to believe that if you went over and tested the middle school, the gym in the middle school, you'd find the same thing.
The unique thing with the middle school though too is that floor is elevated too, right? Right, Mr. Oakley, right? That floor is not, that slab is not on the ground, right?
The basement underneath,
right?
The middle school, the wood floor is not on the ground. The all-purpose room is on the ground.
That's why we have a moisture problem.
That's correct.
We're gonna get a.
Can I ask how this? I'd like to ask a question. Having just proposed a 2.5 override to the budget for the town for the schools, can I ask how this became the top priority when extra funds were available? Because I know there was a laundry list of things previously.
Well, we recently had another failure to the floor, which was not helpful. And again, we've been band-aiding for the last couple of years. And so, at some point, we've looked at this, we've considered it, we've gnashed our teeth about it, we've sent it out for have consultants review it. And, we're kind of at the point where, if we want to continue to use the gym and safely provide access to the gym, we have to address it.
My understanding is that they are currently still using the gym, having a child that's in gym 2 days a week. So the gym floor is, I just want to understand clearly, is
Right.
the gym floor usable or not?
Okay, well, usable in the sense that we can put cones around the 12-foot section that is now damaged, right? And then conduct activities around it. But I wouldn't describe it as usable for the intended purpose of the gym. When life returns to normal and we need to have competition and we need to have practices and make the gym available for its intended design use. Can we scoot around problem areas now, which is what's being done? Yes. Okay, but that doesn't meet my definition of the gym being available.
So can I ask where the water comes from? There isn't an underground stream?
No, that's, and again, I just bring this up, but after reading the consultant's reports, that's what my original impression was, but they didn't recommend any change to the draining underneath. They felt that the environmental control of the air conditioning would adequately control the humidity so the floor could be, and with the vapor barrier, that we would be successful.
But I know that a large section of the parking lot is about 10 feet higher.
Right.
So there's water, so water could seep, but is there any recommendation from any of the engineers to change the contour of the land around the outside of the
Again, I
slope
defer to
make it
Mr. Oakley,
slope?
but it was not. It was not.
Can I get a copy of the report?
Sure.
Yeah. It just.
The-
I spoke with Roger earlier.
Okay.
And you know,
The
discussed it. and I
The
think-
problem with the exterior water does not affect the gym. That also is improperly designed. But that was my worry, was that this water was getting in underneath the floor because we had a room right at the corner of the gym entrance where the block kept getting saturated and the paint was peeling. But that has been fixed now since I ran a pipe from that last catch basin to the actual street drainage. That has now taken care of that problem. The test borings we did on the slab itself or within the gym showed no signs of underwater flowing or anything like that. I will tell you that the material put under the slab was not of correct density. It was shale, rock, whatever was on site. Should have been a foot worth of good gravel or crushed stone. And by not putting that insulation in there, any type of moisture in that clay soil is gonna actually, when you get 112 or 115 degrees in that gym, that humidity is gonna suck that water right through the slab, especially since it has no water barrier and no insulation.
So Roger, what you're saying is that when you did your core samples, you didn't find any sign of any barriers below the concrete?
That is correct. I have the report here, and when it says insulation, the X means not found. There was no vapor barrier and there was no insulation. They're all X's right across where every sample was taken.
It's been a long launch, but we can inspect the rest.
Is the humidity level at 99% in both the summer and the winter?
The ones we took in January were 94 and 93. The ones we took in I believe it was April, were 98, 99, and 94.
So, well, I appreciate getting a copy of the report. I'd like to see it. The other thing is are we gonna get, what kind of a warranty are we gonna get on this floor? Because I'll be honest with you, I spoke with Roger today, we had a good conversation. I understand where everybody's coming from, but I have a concern with topical treatments of concrete. Because it's not gonna stop the concrete from having humidity in it. And if for some reason it breaks through the barrier, you're gonna be right back where you were. That water, you know, whether you find water under the floor or not, if you've got water on the outside that's high and you've got silty clays, you got water that's going underneath, there's no question. And I don't want to spend $2 million. I don't want to spend $1 million. But at the same time, my concern is you know, without a really good warranty, if we're back here in 10 years saying, oh, we got to replace this floor, it's like, you know, now it's going to be $1.5 million or whatever, because you won't have a choice. So I really stress that if these guys are designing this thing, they ought to I'd like to see a warranty that says, yeah, this is going to last 30 years. And it's, you know, because one of the things when Roger and I spoke, and he told me that the other thing is that they, in the information that was handed out to us, it says, the company says, you have to supply them with relative humidity readings. And Roger said, we did that. And he quoted it again tonight. And I think that's good. For safety's sake, you ought to have them take their own relative humidity.
It's one of my notes.
And use that from the warranty standpoint, because if you give them to them, they can disavow that and say, oh, I was acting on what you told me.
Very good. I already sent them an email saying that they would have to do their own humidity test. We're not going to tell them so that they can come back and point to us and say, well, it was your fault. No, they're going to do their own.
And I want to fix the gym floor too. I've been hearing about this for 5 years, right? Whatever. I just want to make sure that you started off by saying exactly what I'm thinking. I don't want.
Right. So we know we share your concerns and we try to gather the information to make the right decision. So share your concerns.
Is there a warranty period or do we not know yet?
All right, we're pretty early in the process. We know it's certainly something we want to negotiate with them. That's what the building is about. Again, I defer to what the standard issue business practice would be for jobs.
Could you ask them if there's an extended warranty that we could pay for disclosing this issue?
Right. Yeah, no, that would certainly make sense to explore.
You will have that.
So my understanding is this doesn't get rid of the humidity coming from underneath, though, does it? It just separates it from the actual floor?
The air conditioning will take care of the humidity. The air conditioning will take care of the humidity. That's why you don't have humidity
under
in
the
your
floor as
home.
well, which is where it's coming from?
It's
Sorry,
coming
I'm
from-
confused because I'm hearing
It's coming from everywhere. It comes from the wood, it comes from the walls, it comes from the bleach. Everything in the world has moisture in it. I don't care what it is. And when it gets to 112, 115, somebody said their house doesn't have, well, of course, you don't keep it at 112 or 115 degrees either. But if you have a space that's that hot without air conditioning, you're going to pull moisture from whatever's in that space.
The gym doesn't have windows.
Correct.
So that's the issue.
Well, they have ventilation. Because it's, I don't want, I'm not going to belittle the air conditioning. The question in my mind from the air conditioning standpoint is you're sucking air from up here. You know, so by then the humidity has come through the slab. And so we're trying to defeat ourselves, by the way, all right? So there are two pieces to this. One is a very high humidity in the gymnasium. Forget about the concrete for a minute, just from the gymnasium standpoint, can make the wood expand and contract. So that's one thing that you have to look at. But that's not the same humidity that we're talking about. The humidity of the air is not in the 99. If it was, it would be raining in the gym. I mean, that's what relative humidity is. But I'm sure the humidity in the air is high. But when we're talking about the air conditioning taking care of that, in order for it to take care of what we're talking about, the slab, it's got to suck it through the slab to get it, which means it's going through the floor. So that, you know, there's a little bit, in my mind, a little bit of a disconnect there, you know. So I'm really sitting there saying, okay, the vapor barrier has got to be the deal, and it's got to work, because if it doesn't work, we'll be back.
I mean, quite frankly, to do it right, we should probably go in and cut slabs out, take them out, go down to a level where you could put a good vapor barrier in the gravel and then rebuild it. It's probably the most expensive option, but it might be the only option that has a long-term success.
You know, again, I can only say that, you know, it's not my background, right, as you guys know, right? So we try to retain appropriate opinions from consultants that came in that weren't trying to sell us air conditioning and weren't selling us the floor, right? But was selling us answers, right? And that's what we intended to do, and that's what brought us here. And so,
and one thing I do want to say, I want to commend you for going out and getting a consultant to look at this. I mean, I haven't seen the report, so I don't know exactly what it says, but I think that was a very wise first step.
I'm still confused on the water coming up from underground and how an air conditioner is going to fix that. I'm sorry. I'm not an engineer. I don't pretend to be.
Do you have a do you have a cellar in your home?
Yes.
Yeah.
When you go down there on a nice hot summer day, is it cool?
Yes.
Well, where's
But
the
if you have
humidity?
water coming up, if it's filled with water from underneath, it's not going to be, if my sump pump stops working.
So you admit you do have a water problem, but you also have air conditioning.
Not my basement, no.
No, you don't, but you do in your home, don't you?
not central.
And
I have it that- I have it in,
the point I'm making is cold air falls. Cold air falls. So when it falls, it dissipates the humidity.
My understanding of the information that we received from the consultant we hired, is to attack it with a vapor barrier to stop the surface water, well, it's not really, it's subsurface water from rising and contacting the floor, and to try to control the atmosphere around it with the air conditioning. It's a twofold attack to try to control it. That's my understanding.
I understand that there's one rip of that area.
Can I clear up something that I think is maybe misleading? A vapor barrier is nothing more than probably a 6 mil polyethylene cover. A water barrier is probably 3/4 or an inch thick. So there is a difference between a vapor barrier and a water barrier. The first thing we need to do after that slab is BB blasted is to put down a water barrier. That will stop a lot of the moisture from getting to the slab. On top of that water barrier, there's got to be a vapor barrier, which there is a special flooring, special thing that the MA says that we should use. And I have that in the spec, and that's what is being bid when we go out to bid, is this special vapor barrier that is a little thicker than 6 mil poly. And if any of you have had polyethylene under any of your loom or your mulch, after 4 or 5 years, you will find out that it disintegrates, where this particular product does not.
Okay, let's move on.
I think we're out of time, right? Do you guys have a 6:45 meeting in this room?
Yeah, I just opened up the Zoom and just told people that we're running it.
Okay, so I think
Are
we
we
need to
over?
wrap up.
Let's get the other one out of the way.
All right, can you do item two in 30 seconds?
Let's go ahead and do the traffic
The
area,
traffic.
do it at BMS.
Yeah, we will.
Continue the security discussions for us.
This is the
Oh,
second.
we did it last year?
This is the second one. The
Second
first one at the middle school.
Yep, all right.
We did that.
So finishing up the high school one, putting in the, replacing the doors, remember they were rusted in the outside. We put the windows in by the main office, that's been restructured. So we're just waiting for the doors to go in. I believe that's October 9th and 10th, right, Roger? They're gonna complete that.
Yes.
Same kind of process over at BMS, except we have to build a second set of doors on the inside hallway and the window.
Yeah. Any comments from the finance committee? Nope. Motion to recommend the entrapment doors, $160,000 from free cash. So second,
Second.
all those in favor, aye. Opposed?
Aye.
aye.
Entrapment doors are recommended 5-0. Motion to recommend gymnasium floor, $540,000 from borrowing.
Wait, John, before you go further, Roger, can I clarify, last night at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, you quoted 548,000 on the gym floor? And that is what the Board of Selectmen recommended?
That includes the air conditioning also.
So the number is 548, not 540.
Correct, 548.
$548,000 from borrowing. For motion. Second. Questions, comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah, aye.
Was that an aye or a nay?
Aye.
Recommended 5-0.
Sorry, John, that was a nay for the floor.
As in a 4-1.
Recommended 4-1.
Have a motion, capital improvement for the gym floor.
So moved.
Joey?
Kelly,
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And can I have a motion for the entrapment?
Recommend the entrapment on, yeah, I recommend the entrapment for the middle school.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
The motion to adjourn the finance committee meeting? All those in favor? Opposed? The meeting is adjourned.
Motion to,
So we're gonna, for the capital improvement.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Yeah.